A shocking MLB report about the Baltimore Orioles was just revealed, involving Mike Elias details and plans at the MLB trade deadline tomorrow, involving two Baltimore Orioles players that could be on the move. Welcome back to Orioles Digest. I'm your host, Kam Brice. And the MLB trade deadline is tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And the Baltimore Orioles have been surrounded with so many rumors, including Cedric Mullins, Ryan O'Hearn, Charlie Morton, and even all-star catcher and Adley Rutschman. So in this episode of Orioles Digest, we're going to tell you all the details you need to know to prepare for this MLB trade deadline and who the Baltimore Orioles will trade. Without further ado, let's just get into our first topic of the day. Yes, yes, we have some interesting news. So early on in the day, Buster Only from ESPN came out with an article ranking his MLB trade deadline predictions and what he's hearing from organizations and GMs. He went to say that the New York Mets have been calling teams for veteran outfielders, including the Baltimore Orioles. They have checked in on Cedric Mullins and Ryan O'Hearn. Now, Ryan O'Hearn is an all-star, and Cedric Mullins, they might have just played their last game as a Baltimore Oriole today. And I just want to say that's sad because what Cedric Mullins has meant for this team over the course of his career, we have to remember it started with Santander, Mullins, and Hayes. They were with one of the worst teams in baseball. They were the focal point. They helped develop this franchise. They helped develop this team, and they were the veteran that all these young guys needed. Now, most of those guys are pushed back, and Cedric is the only guy left. Now, do I want Cedric Mullins to get traded? No, I absolutely love Cedric Mullins. One of my favorite Orioles players of all time, besides Manny Machado. But Cedric, I think it's time for him to go contend for a team in the championship. And I want Cedric to be on ESPN, to be on Fox, to be able to give that national recognition that he hasn't gotten in Baltimore since his 30 for 30 season. Now, on the other hand, for Ryan O'Hearn, this is the tricky situation for O'Hearn. So the Baltimore still have control over Hearn. You can re-sign him to not a big contract, but a contract that works within the organization. Now, the problem with O'Hearn is you have Kobe Mayo, who is starting to break out. Kobe Mayo is breaking out. We see that he can be an everyday player. He just has to get consistent at bats. Jackson Holliday has already turned into a superstar. Gunnar Henderson is back. Adley's back. And then another situation is Ryan Mountcastle. What do you do with Ryan Mountcastle? Mountcastle will be a free agent soon. The Orioles are not going to re-sign Mountcastle because he hasn't had a career year in about 4 or 5 seasons. So he's been the guy that's been holding the first base position down. But every single year, he's been dealt with injuries. So I feel like the Baltimore is in a situation where they're just trying to sell as many veterans that they can get and get draft picks. And in this video, I'll talk more about the Mets draft picks and what I think the Baltimore Orioles can get to. And we also will get into a trade proposal. But my final thoughts on what I think before we get into John Heyman and what MLB reporters actually tweeted and actually said in their articles. I think the Baltimore is the best situation. Keep Cedric Mullins. Keep him. Just keep him. Just let him finish the year off in Baltimore. Trade Ryan O'Hearn, and you trade Charlie Morton. And who's another guy we're going to talk about? Because I don't think the Baltimore is going to walk out this trade deadline trading Mullins, O'Hearn, Morton, Sagano, and maybe Mountcastle. That's just ridiculous that they trade about 3 to 4 position players in a single deadline. I just don't see that happening. Now about Charlie Morton. This is the thing. Now, Charlie Morton, obviously, we signed him on a 1-year deal. He's very old. But the Orioles are not going to get much from him. But the New York Mets, Stephen Cohen came out and said earlier today that they're looking for a starting pitcher and a veteran outfielder to help them with the playoff push. They don't need a 1 or 2. He needs a 3 or 4, a guy that he can trust in Game 2 or Game 3 of a World Series. Charlie Morton is a veteran guy who's pitching high pivotal moments. He's been in the playoffs with the Braves. He's been one of the best pitchers in baseball at one point. He's a veteran guy, still has amazing stuff. So, what could the Baltimore's possibly get for Charlie Morton? Now, I'll look at this prospect list. Okay, I'm going to tell you guys the Mets prospect list. At 1, we have Jet Williams, and we all know Jet Williams probably won't get traded. Like, let's just be honest. I don't think they're going to trade Jet Williams. Now you have Jonah Tong, who is a right-handed pitcher who is expected to be in 2026. He's with the Rumble Ponies right now, which is their Double A team. And let's take a look at his stats. They're not pretty bad, but last year in 2023, my fault, 2023, he had a 6 ERA throughout rookie ball. This season has been his first kind of jump. It's his first appearance in AA. He's only had about 18 games, but he has a 1.66 ERA. Yep. Remember this name, Jonah Tong. That's the name that we all have to remember. This guy, yep, this is the guy that the Baltimore Orioles need to trade for. So what would a package look like? Okay, so we're thinking about Cedric Mullins and Ryan O'Hearn. So I think maybe you throw in Cedric Mullins, you throw in a guy like Heston Kjerstad, because say Cedric Mullins goes somewhere else in the offseason. You have Heston Kjerstad the Mets can have. You throw in Tong, add some cash considerations. I don't think the Mets are giving up much. A guy in Double A who probably won't make the MLB into next year, 2027. Now for the Orioles, you're getting a young dominant pitcher who is very, very, very elite stuff. Elite stuff, a right-handed pitcher that you need. And I think this is the time for the Orioles to start stockpiling up on trades and draft capital. We've seen when the Orioles start to fall is when they kind of push that farm system to the side and said, you know what? We have all these talent in the majors. Let's figure out how to maximize these guys. But they haven't maximized these guys. They've gone the wrong direction. They've messed up several developments. They almost messed up Kobe Mayo development. So lucky that he has a good mindset and he's stuck in. Now the question is, are you even going to get a top 10 prospect for Charlie Morton? I don't think so. But there is another proposed idea that I think this is something that the Baltimore Orioles would like. It might not be the Mets' top 10 prospects, but it's something. So obviously, Cedric Mullins will be traded, but this trade also says the Baltimore Orioles will receive the Mets' 21 prospect, an outfielder in Elias Sereno. Now, he's the 21st prospect, and then the 29th prospect and a pitcher. So you can get a position player and a pitcher for Cedric Mullins. But would you want a top 10 prospect, or do you want 3 top 30 prospects? For me, I'm going to go out and get a guy like Tong. I think he's a very good guy. So young, still in Double A. He can build the foundation for the Baltimore Orioles. And I feel like at this point right now, for what they want to do, I think the best situation is just to find a trade partner with the Mets. I love the Mets. And why I'm emphasizing this whole video about the Mets and the Orioles, because I feel like the Mets are in a position where they could take on a guy like Charlie Morton and Ryan O'Hearn and use them for a playoff push. And send us a guy in Double A, Triple A, and send us maybe a relief pitcher. Boom. We have 3 arms that we just got from the Mets. 2 that possibly can be brought up next year. 1 that's going to be on the 40-man roster next year. So there's a lot of moves that the Baltimore's can go to. But the one thing is, what will Mike Elias do? A lot of people are saying they don't want to trade Cedric Mullins or Ryan O'Hearn. But in order for this team to maximize that potential, this will be the most important trade deadline in MLB history for the Baltimore Orioles. If Elias sets this foundation up for 2026, 2027, and further, I think the Baltimore's will be in a better spot than the last 2 to 3 years when we were struggling trying to figure out why we're not winning the playoffs. I think the Baltimore's figured out it's pitching. We all knew it all along. It was always pitching. So what they're doing right now is trying to stock up on the pitching, and I can't complain. But for Cedric Mullins and Ryan O'Hearn, I'm going to miss y'all so much. But hey, next episode of Orioles Digest, we're going to have all the details on what trade went down tomorrow at Eastern Time. Well, that's all we have for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining Orioles Digest. Don't forget to hit that like, comment, subscribe. Please, it means a lot for me. Hey, the MLB trade deadline's tomorrow. I will be back early in the morning with all the updates that you want to know about the MLB trade deadline involving the Baltimore Orioles. From Orioles Digest, I'm your host, Kam Brice.